Good afternoon. Sorry for the delay. We had some technical difficulties, but I'm really happy and proud to be able to present our idea of sentiment analysis on a geographic world map. What we've created is actually the first live geographic sentiment heat map of everyone. Unfortunately, we can't show you a live demo. It looks really cool, but we have some screenshots. The only difference is there's no nice pulsating lights. It's cooler live, but anyways, you'll get the idea. So we'll start off with the overall problem that we're trying to solve, and what we had felt at first is that there's an overall huge amalgamation of information on the web, particularly user-generated information, social information, and somehow we find that there's always, we're always having to Google, for example, a recent event. Like my interest was North Korea in February because I have some friends in the region, and I always had to press Google and North Korea, enter, and just see the latest news that came up. And I just wish that there was a better way to find information. So then, in machine learning, they do something called principal component analysis. And basically what that is when you have a huge multi-dimensional data set, you can project it to smaller dimensions in order to see patterns in the data. And I think that's a really good analogy for what we're trying to do. Right now, Google is using an underlying paradigm to rank and sort data, which is the random surfer model. That's what they use in PageRank. And what we want to do is re-rank and resort information based on sentiment analysis. So basically two polarities, and then map that onto the world. That's our approach to solving the excess information problem. Okay, so that's essentially exactly what we did. What we did is we used the Twitter streaming API, streamed them tweets live. I created a sentiment analysis algorithm that polarizes the tweets as negative or positive. Once it's categorized as negative or positive, it's stored in an SQL database, and that's just purely for the visualization. Then what we do in that same logic in the back end is I have a noun tagger which extracts the nouns from the tweets, and I associate a sentiment with the nouns. And we store that also in a MySQL database. So the end result is a sentiment heat map of the world that's also searchable. Let's go over here. So this is what we want to show you live, and it looks exactly like this except it's pulsating. It's really cool. But anyways, on the bottom left there, you can see the aggregate sentiment in the world, which is about 79-21, positive, negative, which is pretty much the average. People are generally really happy until they're not happy. A point over there in Indonesia, you can just see this huge circle, and the reason for that is that surprisingly, Jakarta, Indonesia is the #1 most active spot on Twitter in the world. It outweighs New York 4-1 actually, which is just something I didn't know before. It's very interesting. One thing to keep in mind is that we're only filtering English tweets, which means that there's a lot more sentiment coming from around the world, but we are focusing on English tweets because we trained our algorithm for English tweets. But I should mention that, in fact, it's really easy to train for any language. One more point on this is our front page, and I want to describe exactly what you're looking at. What you're looking at is obviously a world map, but what you can't see is that there's a really, really fine mesh grid, invisible grid over the entire map. And at the intersection of each of the points is an invisible circle, essentially a dot. But this dot is bound to Twitter data and sentiment data using D3, so that as soon as people start tweeting, that dot has the potential to expand and change color. So the radius of the circle is correlated to the number of people tweeting in that area, whereas the color is correlated to the sentiment. And obviously red is negative, green is positive. Oh, there's an explanation right there. Here's a sample search with Bieber, as in Justin Bieber. And you can see that across the world about 70% of the people are positive, 31 are negative, and you can see how people feel about him across the world, which is interesting. It's quite mixed. Okay, so for business model, I think that the really obvious business model is advertisement driven. But what I wanted to discuss with some of my group members actually after the presentation are other business models, because I think that this could actually be used as a platform that's somewhere in between a search engine and a social media site. And what I mean by that is search engines are by nature very lonely. People go to search engines to go somewhere else. Social media sites are very busy. People stay on social media sites, but they don't learn anything. And I think there's a really nice space right in between both markets, and I think this could possibly fill it. But it's another topic. Okay, so that's the end of the presentation. Let me just show you a couple more screenshots. Okay, so, okay, here.
things that more or less add to the emotion, yeah? The emotional quality of an application. And I have to really say, you're lacking now something to the screenshots, yeah?
Yep. No, I totally agree. It's much cooler in person, but it's the best we can do for now. But I had some sample searches here, just 3 of them. This is America, and it was just July 4th, so there's a lot of data in the cache that's still containing that sentiment, so you can see it's overall very good. If you scroll over any circle, you can see how many people are tweeting from there and the percent that's positive and negative. Okay, so that's America. Let's check out another one. Here's beer. I like this one because actually this is one of the first search terms I used just to make sure everything's working, because I would expect beer to be overwhelmingly positive, which it is across the world. It's pretty international. Very cool. And again, as Professor Mathis said, this is so much better live because you can see things pulsating. And it's much more interactive and intuitive. Yeah, and that's all. These are our screenshots. And if anyone's interested in seeing it live, you can just come find me. And thank you for your attention.